many consecutive weeks, herds of wild boars began leaving the deep forest to search for food in crop fields located near the forest edge. At first, they only appeared late at night and quickly returned to the forest before sunrise. However, over time, their visits became more frequent and their range of movement expanded significantly. More and more cultivated fields showed fresh tracks, uprooted soil, and damaged crops. Farmers repeatedly found new signs every morning, indicating that the herd had returned night after night. As the level of damage continued to increase, monitoring the herd's activity became necessary. At first, only a few wild boars appeared near the farmland, but within a short period their numbers grew into large herds. They repeatedly returned to the same fields and followed exactly the same travel routes they had established before. Their nightly feeding activities became increasingly regular and gradually expanded into neighboring cultivated areas. Ordinary methods of driving them away were no longer effective, as the herd quickly returned after each attempt. In response, the management team decided to install infrared cameras around the affected area. The recorded footage clearly identified the herd's arrival times, population size, and the routes they consistently used. Based on the information collected from the cameras, the management team selected a location directly along the herd's regular travel route to install a trap. A large circular steel trap was constructed with enough space to hold many wild boars at the same time. Every support post was firmly anchored into the ground to ensure stability during operation. During the initial stage, the trap door remained fully open, so the herd could gradually become familiar with the new structure. Bait was placed in the center, while the surrounding environment was left almost unchanged to avoid raising suspicion when the boars returned to feed. Over the following nights, the herd returned along its familiar route and began entering the trap area. The leading boars walked through the steel enclosure to reach the bait, but after eating for only a short time, they quickly walked back out. The animals behind them behaved in the same way, preventing the herd from staying inside long enough for the system to be activated. After several nights of observation, the management team realized that the trap had not been placed at the location where the herd usually remained the longest. The entire structure was dismantled and moved to another site closer to the area where the boars typically gathered to feed. Once reassembled, fresh bait was again placed in the center, and the system was prepared for the next attempt. After the trap had been relocated, the herd quickly returned along its familiar route. The leading animals entered first and approached the bait without showing any signs of caution. Seeing that the first boars were feeding safely, the others gradually followed and slowly filled the interior of the enclosure. More and more individuals entered until most of the herd had gathered around the bait. At the precise moment when the majority of the animals had passed through the entrance, the management team activated the system. The heavy steel gate immediately dropped, sealing the only exit. The trapped boars moved around the edge of the enclosure searching for a way out, but were unable to escape, leaving the entire herd safely contained. Once the herd had settled inside the trap, the management team approached to inspect the entire system and confirm the number of captured animals. The boars were then transported away from the agricultural area using specialized vehicles according to the established wildlife management procedures. After the relocation was completed, the trap was inspected again, fresh bait was added, and any necessary maintenance was carried out so it would be ready for future use. Over time, the frequency of wild boar visits decreased noticeably, crop damage became much less common, and local farmers were finally able to continue their agricultural activities with greater peace of mind.
He went to every...
Infrared cameras installed along the edge of the agricultural area continuously recorded the activity of wild boars after nightfall. During the first few nights, only a few individuals appeared before quickly disappearing back into the forest. They moved slowly, stopping several times to sniff the ground before entering the cultivated fields. Later recordings showed that the number of boars increased significantly. The entire herd appeared from the same direction, following one another along the same familiar trail. Every night, they repeated almost the exact same route, showing that the herd had established a regular feeding pattern in this area. Within a short period, the damage to the farmland became increasingly obvious. Many crop rows were completely uprooted, and the topsoil was turned over into large patches. Young plants were torn from the ground as the herd dug for food beneath the soil. New trails appeared along the forest edge, leading directly into the farming area. By comparing footage from multiple nights, the management team realized that the herd always arrived at nearly the same time and consistently used a single travel route. This information became the basis for selecting the most suitable location for the control operation. After surveying the site, the management team decided to build a large rectangular trap directly along the route most frequently used by the herd. The trap frame was assembled from heavy steel panels, securely connected to form a spacious, enclosed structure. Every support post was firmly anchored into the ground to ensure stability, even if many animals entered at the same time. During the initial stage, the trap door was left fully open to make the structure appear harmless. The surrounding environment was kept almost unchanged so the herd could gradually become accustomed to the new structure. After several nights of becoming familiar with the area, the wild boar herd returned along its usual path. The leading animals entered the trap, one by one, to reach the bait placed in the center. Finding nothing unusual, the rest of the herd quickly followed in small groups. Within a short time, most of the animals had gathered inside the enclosure. At the planned moment, the mechanism was activated. The heavy steel gate dropped rapidly, sealing the only exit. The trap boars moved around the edges of the enclosure, searching for an escape, but could not get out. The entire herd was quickly brought under control. Once the situation inside the trap became stable, the management team returned to inspect the entire system and confirm the number of captured animals. The wild boars were then loaded onto specialized transport vehicles and removed from the area according to the prepared management plan.
1980.
Afterward, the trap was carefully inspected, fresh bait was placed inside, and any necessary reinforcements were completed. The system remained in the same location, ready to capture additional herds that might return along the same familiar travel routes in the coming days. Immediately afterward, the trap gate was activated and dropped rapidly, sealing every possible exit. The animals inside were instantly confined within the enclosed structure. They moved along the steel fencing searching for an opening, but found none. The trap frame remained firmly in place despite repeated impacts from the herd. After a short period, activity inside gradually calmed as every escape route remained blocked. The entire herd stayed safely contained without requiring direct human intervention while the gate closed. The following morning, the management team returned to inspect the system and confirmed that the herd remained safely contained inside the trap. Specialized transport vehicles arrived to remove all captured animals from the area, according to local wildlife management procedures. After the operation was completed, the trap was dismantled, the remaining bait was collected, and the site was inspected one final time to reduce the chance of attracting more wild animals back to the area.
Wild boars have become one of the most destructive animals affecting agriculture in many regions. They often emerge at night, tearing up cornfields and damaging pastures in just a matter of hours. Before setting any traps, the control team spends several days surveying tracks, routing sites, and the routes most frequently used by the animals. Infrared cameras are placed along trails to determine when the boars are active and how many are moving through the area. Once enough data has been collected, large steel traps are installed at locations with the highest levels of wild boar activity. Bait is then placed inside the traps to encourage the animals to move deeper into the enclosure. As the team approached the first trap, the sound of metal rattling could already be heard from a distance. Inside, several wild boars were trapped and desperately trying to escape. They charged around the enclosure, slammed into the fencing, and became increasingly agitated when they noticed people nearby. The result exceeded all expectations and confirmed that wild boars were moving through the farmland far more frequently than originally estimated. After handling the captured animals, the team quickly moved on to the next trap to check the results from the previous night.
How many geese did you kill this morning? You were.
After the first trap delivered promising results, the team continued to a second location near the edge of the forest. Infrared footage from the night before showed a group of wild boars entering the baited area. As the last animal stepped inside, the trigger mechanism activated and the steel gate dropped shut. When the team arrived the following morning, what stood out most was not just the number of animals captured, but the size of several individuals inside the trap. The boars repeatedly slammed into the steel fencing, causing the entire structure to shake. After quickly dealing with the situation, the team continued on to inspect the remaining traps.
I've had to jump on it.
Moving deeper into the forest, the team checked the rest of the trap sites one by one. Although some locations produced little activity, fresh tracks and newly rooted ground showed that wild boars were still moving regularly throughout the area. Following those signs, the team made its way along a trail where infrared cameras had repeatedly recorded boars traveling during the night. Expectations for the trap at this location were modest, but the outcome turned out to be very different. Inside was a much larger group of wild boars than anticipated, suggesting that this trail serves as a major travel corridor for the local population.
Be hanging out even. That's pretty calm.
As the sun began to disappear behind the trees, the team completed its work at the final checkpoint and started reviewing the day's results. Yet one reality remained unchanged. Fresh tracks scattered throughout the area showed that wild boars were still active in large numbers. Even so, the traps had produced encouraging results. The number of animals captured far exceeded initial expectations, demonstrating that the operation was making a meaningful impact. Although the battle against wild boars is far from over, the day's efforts helped reduce pressure on nearby farms and agricultural land. However, not every plan goes smoothly. In another trial, a trap was deployed with careful preparation, but a small error rendered the entire system ineffective. The gate closed more slowly than expected, giving the boars enough time to escape. This was not a victory earned through superior intelligence on the part of the animals, but rather a failure caused by a minor technical mistake. The incident demonstrated that in wildlife management, even a small oversight can undermine an entire control strategy. As the day comes to an end, the fight against wild boars is far from finished. The signs left behind across the fields make it clear that this challenge will continue for the foreseeable future. Even so, the results from these trapping efforts show that progress is being made. Every successful capture helps protect crops, reduce damage, and provide hope for farming communities that face the impact of wild boars every single day.
Let's go see.
Florida has long been one of the areas where the wild hog population has expanded rapidly. Over the past several weeks, Patricia has repeatedly discovered fresh tracks around the pastures, livestock feeding areas, and trails leading toward the edge of the woods. Their increasingly frequent presence has made managing the farm far more difficult. After spending several days tracking the herd's movements, she decided to contact us for help inspecting the trap systems installed along their main travel routes. Unlike many conventional traps, this system is designed to guide an entire sounder through a specially designed entrance and deep into an enclosed netted area. Once inside, the hogs have a difficult time locating the exact way out. Still, no one can predict what each trap will reveal. Around midnight, the monitoring system sent an alert indicating that the first trap had been triggered. Although Patricia was eager to check immediately, she decided to wait until morning so the team could work safely and inspect the site more clearly. Early the next morning, the entire team quickly arrived at the first location. The heavy concentration of tracks on the ground showed that a full sounder had moved through the area during the night. This confirmed that the travel route Patricia had patiently monitored for several days was exactly right. After evaluating the site and completing the work there, the team moved on to the next location with high expectations. If the system continued to perform as planned, the remaining sites could help us better understand the size of the sounder and its movement patterns. The next trap presented an entirely different challenge. As soon as the hogs became aware of the team's presence, they grew extremely alert and began circling the enclosure in search and escape route. Patricia reminded everyone to remain in position, keep noise to a minimum, and avoid getting too close. Wild animals can react unpredictably when they feel cornered, so every step had to be carried out calmly, in the correct order, and according to the agreed-upon plan. The situation once again proved that hands-on field experience can be just as important as any modern equipment. After completing inspections at several locations, Patricia led us to another trap near an area where numerous piglet tracks had previously been found. She hoped the site would provide more information about how the different groups had been moving in recent days. Sure enough, animals of various sizes were inside the enclosure. The workload required the team to coordinate far more closely than at the previous sites. Patricia remained in constant communication with everyone to ensure that each step was completed according to plan. Although the process took considerable time, this became one of the most informative inspections for understanding the sounder structure and group movement. That night, the monitoring system reported that the final trap had also been triggered. When we arrived the following morning, Patricia was already there. She had inspected the site, documented the travel routes, and prepared everything the team would need. Looking through her notebook, filled with details about arrival times, movement directions, tracks, and weather conditions, we understood why she could often predict with remarkable accuracy where the wild hogs would return. Behind every successful inspection lies more than the performance of the trap itself. It also requires countless hours of observation, detailed record keeping, and patience in the field. Our day with Patricia came to an end as the sun slowly disappeared beyond the Florida grasslands. What stayed with us most was not the number of wild hogs recorded at each location, but the way she patiently studied every track, every trail, and every subtle change in the environment. That patience helped the entire team better understand wild hog behavior and explain why every field inspection could produce an unexpected discovery. Perhaps that is also why we will always be ready to return to Florida for another journey in the future.
For many years, wild boar herds lived deep within vast natural forests. They survived in groups and maintained stable population growth through successive generations. As the size of the herds increased, their demand for food also became greater than before. Traditional feeding areas gradually became insufficient to support all individuals within the herd. As a result, wild boars began expanding their range beyond their traditional habitat. They traveled across various types of terrain in search of new food sources. After expanding their range, wild boar herds began moving into agricultural areas located near the forests. Fields and cultivated lands quickly became attractive feeding grounds for them. At first, the herds appeared only at certain times, but their frequency gradually increased over time. They established regular travel routes between their shelter in the forest and the production areas outside. This made access to food much easier. As the number of individuals continued to grow, their range expanded as well. Residents repeatedly recorded signs and sightings of the herds in many different agricultural areas. Not only did the herds appear in production zones, but they also moved closer to nearby residential areas. The distance between humans and the herds gradually narrowed over time. Unexpected encounters began occurring more frequently than before. Some individuals reacted aggressively when they felt threatened or were approached at close range. In many situations, they were willing to charge in self-defense or to protect their herd. This caused increasing concern among local residents about safety risks in the area. Under these circumstances, controlling the wild boar population became an issue of special concern. To prepare for the control process, management teams conducted extensive surveys of the herd's activities across a wide area. The routes most frequently used by the herds were identified and carefully marked. In open areas, large circular traps made of strong steel frames were installed to contain multiple individuals at the same time. In addition, rectangular traps were placed along narrow travel corridors or in locations with favorable terrain. After the structures were completed, the gate systems were thoroughly inspected to ensure reliable operation. Once installation was finished, bait was placed at the center of the trap systems. After some time, the wild boars returned along their familiar feeding routes. The leading individuals approached the bait area and observed their surroundings before entering. When no signs of danger were detected, the animals behind quickly followed in small groups. The number of individuals inside the trap gradually increased with each wave of movement. The scent of the bait continued attracting more animals deeper into the controlled area. Before long, most of the herd had gathered within the trap perimeter. When favorable conditions appeared, the system was activated at the predetermined moment. The steel gates quickly closed and blocked all exits to the outside. The herd was immediately contained within the controlled area. The trapped animals repeatedly moved along the edges of the trap searching for an escape route, but none succeeded. Numerous collisions occurred between the herd and the steel framework, yet the entire structure remained firmly in place. After a short period, the herd gradually settled inside the enclosure. Once the herd had stabilized inside the trap, the management team approached the area and inspected the condition of the captured animals. Specialized transport vehicles were brought in to remove the herd from the location. After the transfer was completed, the trap system was inspected and maintained to prepare for future use. The area gradually returned to a stable state as the wild boars no longer appeared as frequently as before.
In the past few years, we've seen hogs pop up in Irving, Coppell, and McKinney, really all over the place. There was even a deadly hog attack in Erath County about an hour and a half southwest of Fort Worth.
In just a few nights, more than 40 acres of farmland in Texas were torn apart by a massive herd of wild hogs. Newly growing corn rows were uprooted, irrigation systems were damaged, and large sections of property looked as if a storm had swept through. As the losses continued to mount, the ranch owner was left with no choice but to launch an unprecedented plan. A giant trap was being built with one goal in mind: capture the entire sounder in a single operation. If it failed, the hogs that escaped would become even more cautious, making future control efforts far more difficult. Over the years, wild hogs have become one of the most destructive animals in Texas. They can be found everywhere, from dense woodlands and open grasslands to vast agricultural areas. As night falls, entire groups begin moving in search of food. In just a few hours, land that has been carefully maintained for months can be completely devastated. With an estimated population in millions across the state, wild hogs are placing enormous pressure on farmers and ranchers. What makes them such a difficult opponent is their remarkable ability to adapt. Wild hogs will eat almost anything, including grains, fruit, insects, and small animals. They can withstand harsh conditions and travel long distances in search of new food sources. A fully grown boar can weigh more than 660 pounds and is powerful enough to damage steel fencing or tear up large sections of ground in a short amount of time. After weeks of monitoring with infrared cameras, the ranch owner identified a route that the hogs use on a regular basis. The location was close to a water source and near the cornfields that had suffered the most damage. Construction soon began on a circular trap measuring more than 30 feet in diameter. Dozens of large steel panels were connected to form a strong enclosure. Steel posts were driven deep into ground to withstand the force of panicked adult hogs. The only entrance to the trap was a remotely operated steel gate. The system was linked to cameras that monitored the site throughout the night. Instead of closing the gate as soon as a few hogs entered, the operator would wait until the entire group had moved deep inside. That single decision would determine the success or failure of the entire operation. Over the following days, corn was spread throughout the trap to make the area feel safe and inviting. At first, only a few hogs appeared. Soon, the numbers grew as they realized food was consistently available. Camera footage showed groups of hogs entering and leaving naturally without showing any signs of suspicion. Everything was going according to plan. Then the night of the operation finally arrived. On the monitor, one hog after another slowly entered the trap. The operator waited patiently. No one wanted to trigger the gate too early and leave part of the sounder outside. The moment the cameras confirmed that the entire group was well inside, the signal was sent. Within seconds, the heavy steel gate dropped into place and sealed off the only exit. The sound echoed through the darkness as the hogs realized something had changed. They began running around the enclosure, searching for a way out, but every escape route had already been cut off. The next morning, the results surprised even the wildlife control team. More than 30 wild hogs had been captured in a single operation. Their combined weight totaled several thousand pounds. It was considered one of the most successful trapping efforts the ranch owner had ever carried out. While it was only one victory in a much larger battle, the capture significantly reduced pressure on the surrounding farmland. With their rapid reproduction rate and incredible adaptability, wild hogs will continue to be a major challenge across Texas. However, smart trapping systems like this are becoming one of the most effective tools available for protecting crops and farmland from the growing invasion of wild hogs.
Recently, wild boar herds have been appearing more frequently in production areas located near natural forests. Fields, farms, and cultivated land have become familiar feeding grounds for them. At first, their appearances were sparse, but after a short period, the herd began returning more regularly. They move along fixed routes between the forest and production areas, creating a repetitive pattern of activity over many consecutive days. Their feeding range gradually expands into multiple cultivated zones, making their presence increasingly familiar to local residents. As the number of individuals continues to grow, the wild boar herd is no longer limited to familiar areas. They constantly expand their movement range in search of new food sources. Old routes are still maintained, while additional paths emerge through agricultural lands. The herd travels farther during each feeding trip before returning to the forest. This expansion allows access to more food sources, but also increases the scale of impact on surrounding areas. Not limited to agricultural zones, the wild boars also move closer to human settlements. They appear around gardens, small roads, and areas near residential edges. The distance between humans and the herd is gradually shrinking as both share increasingly limited space. Unexpected encounters begin to occur at different times of the day. Some individuals react aggressively when they feel threatened or approach too closely. The rising risk of conflict causes concern among residents and increases the demand for effective control measures. Prepare for controlling the herd. The response team surveys the routes commonly used by the wild boars. After identifying suitable locations, circular steel frame traps are installed on open land directly along the movement paths. The structures are reinforced, and the trapdoors are kept open to appear natural. Bait is placed at the center to lure the herd deeper inside. The surrounding environment is left unchanged to avoid suspicion. Once completed, the system is maintained in a stable state while waiting for the herd's habitual return. After a period of observation, the wild boar herd returns to their familiar feeding area. Their movement traces show that they continue using the same forest-to-farmland routes. As they approach the trap zone, the leading individuals slow down and carefully observe their surroundings. However, the scent of food quickly draws their attention. Small groups gradually enter the trap area without noticing anything unusual. The number of individuals inside steadily increases, causing most of the herd to gather within the controlled zone. Once nearly the entire herd has entered the trap area, the system is activated at the correct moment. The locking mechanisms trigger simultaneously, causing the trap doors to shut quickly. All exit routes are completely blocked, preventing escape. The trapped animals move chaotically along the edges in search of a way out, but fail to escape. The steel structure holds firm against repeated impacts. After a short time, the herd becomes fully contained within the controlled area. After the herd is stabilized inside the trap, the response team enters the area to assess the situation. The animals are evaluated before being relocated using specialized transport equipment. The relocation process is carried out carefully to avoid affecting the surrounding environment. Once completed, the trap system is dismantled and inspected. The area gradually returns to a safe and stable condition as before.
Easy system. Get ready, get ready.
Maybe be better if you back to that corner over there.
Come on. Yep, yep. Yep, 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 yep. Yep. Yep, 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 yep. Yep, yep.
The camera system around the farmland began recording unusual activity during the quiet nighttime hours. At first, only a few wild boars appeared at the edge of the field, moved along the forest line, and stopped to sniff and dig through soft soil for roots, insects, and leftover food. They stayed briefly before disappearing into the darkness, so the manager did not yet consider them a serious problem. Later footage showed that the number of wild boars increased steadily with each passing night. The animals leading the group entered first, while those behind kept their distance before following the same route. Their calm movement showed that the herd had become familiar with the area and was noticeably less cautious. They appeared at nearly the same time, followed the same trail, and stayed longer during each visit. Within only a few days, the damage across the cultivated field became increasingly obvious. Large areas of soil had been disturbed, creating long furrows between crop rows, while some plants had been uprooted, exposing their roots on the damp ground. Near the forest, large tracks were clearly visible in the mud, and new trails led directly toward the crops. This showed that the herd had turned the area into a regular feeding ground. After carefully reviewing the footage and inspecting the land, the team realized that the wild boars were not moving randomly. They repeatedly followed the same route from the forest, traveled along the tree line, and then entered the field. The soil along the trail had hardened from the animals' constant movement over several nights. Once their arrival time, direction, and gathering point were identified, the best trap location became clear. A large circular trap was installed on open ground near the herd's usual travel route. The structure was built from strong steel panels and firmly anchored to the ground for greater stability. Its circular design eliminated narrow corners where the wild boars could crowd together or push against the structure. During the first stage, the gate remained completely open so the trap could blend naturally into the surroundings. The immediate goal was not to capture the herd, but to gradually reduce its natural suspicion. During the first few days, corn and grain were placed outside the entrance, where the animals could eat without crossing the steel frame. The smell quickly attracted the entire herd back to the area. At first, they ate near the gate and left, but after detecting no danger, they stayed longer and moved closer to the trap. Once the wild boars began feeding there regularly, the bait was gradually moved deeper inside. The boldest individuals entered first and approached the food near the center, while the others watched carefully from outside. After several safe visits, the more cautious animals also began following them. The bait was placed farther inside, making entry into the trap a familiar behavior rather than something suspicious or dangerous. Patience during this stage determined the success of the entire trapping process. If the gate were triggered too early, only part of the herd would be captured, while those outside might become cautious and never return. The team therefore continued observing until nearly the entire herd entered confidently and without hesitation. One night, a larger group appeared, and the wild boars gradually entered and gathered around the bait. When almost the entire herd was gathered in the center, the system was activated and the gate quickly dropped, completely blocking the exit. The brief sound gave the animals no time to retreat before the entrance was fully closed. By waiting for the right moment, the team secured the whole group with a single activation and without anyone being present nearby. The next morning, the team returned, inspected the trap, and transported the animals according to regulations. Once the operation was complete, the remaining food was removed, the trap was dismantled, and the surrounding area was carefully inspected. New signs of disturbed soil stopped appearing, the trails near the forest gradually faded, and the damaged sections slowly began to recover. The farmer could continue growing crops without worrying about further nighttime damage to the field. If you found this process interesting, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel.